The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to 5 and 15, a webinar series for Charleston Orwig, from Charleston Orwig, where we promise to give you 5 interesting, useful, we hope even compelling points that you can use in your work, all within the constraints of a 15-minute webinar, because we know you are busy. I'm Mark Gale, CEO at Charleston Orwig. You can contact me at mark.g@charlestonorwig.com. We are a 100% employee-owned ESOP, meaning that everybody here benefits when our clients benefit. So we are client-focused. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Rather than go through a topic through the 15, we're going to hit some high points of these 5 and 15 webinars that we've picked over the course of the year and pull something out. If you want the entire presentation, the Q&A, ping me at that address, mark.g@charlestonorwig.com, or you can use the chat pane to send us questions or to ask for the materials, and we will send them to you. As always, I promise we will send them, but we will not bug you. Let's jump right in with crisis communications. If you're working in the food system, agriculture, processing, production, all the way out to food on a plate, you need to be prepared for some difficulties that you might face. We have rules of the road to help you. Identify the team members, think social, digital really, update action plans, monitor what's happening out there, so critical. And of course, it's not over even when you take a breath and hope it's over. The rule that we're going to highlight today, update your action plans. Because, well, first of all, I hope you have a crisis plan. If you don't, please get one. We can help you or others can help you. But you can't get that and put it on the shelf in a 3-ring binder or in a file folder on your computer. You need to have regular scenario planning exercise. The world is ever changing. Pressures are ever changing. Are you up to date? You have to take that one step further by role playing, putting people who are going to have to speak on your behalf in the hot seat. Understand ever more that even if you're local and you think it's isolated because of the digital world, actually it's global, or something globally can project down upon you. You need to be aware of that so something can blow up like never before. And we're not talking about just crisis communication here. Probably the update's even more important, contentious messaging. The hot points in your industry. Are you up to speed? Are you ready to deal with difficulty? Let's jump to the next one. Some research that Charleston Orwig commissioned on behalf of ourselves and for the good of the industry on food labels. There's some good news here. 63% of those surveyed, consumers across America, believe that label information, the rectangle on the back, claims made on the front, very extremely important. That's great to hear. People want those labels. Other good news, nutrition information. People very interested, not just in the government label here, but also on other parts of the label. And that, by the way, that 71% is larger than it was just a couple of years ago. Not as good news. Only 29% of people believe in America that food manufacturers are doing a good job of providing this information. What are we to make of that? Well, a number of things, but we can take something positive out of here, and that is food labels provide a powerful one-to-one sales opportunity. Think about this. A consumer in a store holding your product, you have one more opportunity to communicate directly with that consumer. A consumer on a phone, on a tablet, on a laptop, about ready to click to online order your product, you have one more opportunity to communicate in some ways in a very personal way. Don't squander that opportunity. Product naming, digital age from July 17th. It's a different, product naming is different now that we're in the digital age. We know that. First of all, global name and product development. There's a process that we follow at Charleston Rowing. It's something that is really critical. You have to have a process so you know where you're going. And it's not, gone are the days of, I like that name, you like that name. The process can help you get to where you need to go. In terms of name generation specifically, process can help you with that creative. The artful part can be supported by the process part. Go down the road of what is the product, what it is, what it does. Increasingly important to consumers, what it means to consumers. And then finally, abandon all that. Don't throw it away, but abandon all of it for a little while in your thinking. Think elsewhere. Where else could you go? Sometimes even get a technical person, an engineer, in to help think about names or generate. Be surprised sometimes what you come up with. To get there for naming, comprehensive input. You need a really good brief. And then, as we just saw, engage in disciplined ideation. Use defensible selection. Can you make a business case for that name, for that brand? Think digitally, globally. What social media properties, what URLs, what digital properties do you want to grab? Because even if you think you're just local or regional, online you are global, and you never know where that product, where that company might go. And realize with a name, with a brand, it's never over. We are forever building, protecting, nurturing brands. So just creating it is not enough. Here's a tough one for you. Marketing automation from September 18th. Marketing automation, the buzz phrase of what's happening, a new channel to reach people, to influence, to sell. Well, I don't want to scare you with this chart, but part of what you need to be successful in marketing automation is a workflow. Won't go through this whole thing here on the computer screen. A workflow looks at where do people get into your system, where do they go in your system, what points of influence, where do they exit, when do they do what you want them to do or not. With that information, you can then analyze how you're influencing people. And then we have analytics that are useful for machine learning, for artificial intelligence, to help us be ever more targeted with being helpful to our customer or that person that we want to reach out to, our stakeholder, versus just throwing information out there and hoping that we might somehow connect. So 5 tips for wrestling with marketing automation. 1, be a student of it yourself. Engage with marketing automation yourself. You'll see how people treat you. That will inform how you want to treat others, and you'll learn about the software platforms. More important than a technology platform, however, is a solid strategic foundation. Audiences, messages, why you're doing something, what your value is. Allocate a champion, someone who's going to be the steward of this program. Diagram the workflow as we saw. And then, if you do all that, you can measure and inform and get ever smarter about your effort. Going to just step back to that one in the middle. allocate a champion or abort the mission. You need someone like this smiling young woman here who has a little bit of a bent for sales, a curiosity about process, a little technical aptitude, who can help ensure that your program will be successful. Because this isn't something you can just project upon your staff. It takes time, it takes aptitude, it takes intelligence, and you need to carve out a place for this person who's going to run marketing automation for you. Not necessarily a full-time job, but significant time to make you successful. Food safety research. That's another study we did this year. Charleston Orwig sponsored it with independent researchers, including our friend Maeve Webster at Menu Matters and our friends at Confidential Consumer. We delved into what consumers think about our food supply. Well, 77% of consumers say to be safest about food, you should cook it at home. That's in a way encouraging, but when you look at it another way, it drops down to about only 59% say they really have a lot of confidence in restaurants where you go sit down and order, and then it drops from there. A full 1/4, 27%, actually a little bit more than a quarter, unsure about the safety of our food supply. That's a little disturbing because we happen to know that our food supply is more secure than it has ever been. Now, yes, information that gets out there so quickly and so broadly about problems with food safety contribute to people not being fully confident. Only about 48, 49%, by the way, are fully confident in our food supply. We'll come back to number 3 about the difficulty with fragmented media of communicating. What are the safest and riskiest concerns? I just caution you, not what Charleston Orwig is saying, but what consumers are saying. Safest, things like beans, lentils, rice, grains, those sorts of things. Fruits that you wash and eat, people think those are safe. What they perceive as riskiest, meat and poultry, and then leafy greens. Just recently, we saw yet again this year, for instance, problems with romaine lettuce. Those are the reasons people are concerned, perhaps justifiably, with the difficulty with some of those products. And then finally, consumers want assurance. Let's dive into one of those aspects, though. Our challenges, and this applies across everything really we've been talking about today, our challenges with fragmented media, if you're going to communicate here about food safety, whether it's a recall or you want to reinforce your product and your processes, 18 to 34, you can see those audiences. You skew across as you might think you would in terms of what people say they go to for information. And so if you want to communicate to all these audiences or just one of them, you need to be aware of this and look at how you communicate. When we ask what the second most important way to get information on this topic, however, all ages say friends, family, co-workers are where they get a lot of information. So word of mouth for food safety, big, important thing to consider. Information, or I guess advice we would have on how to make sure that your food safety protocol is where it should be. Work with the industry on best practices. You might hire a consultant, train your people. And then unfortunately, you're going to need to be ready for crisis communication should one arise. Well, that's a quick overview of some of the high points of what we've done in our webinars this year. Some questions that you might have. I've got a few that I can answer. Clearly, here's someone that saw the food labeling research, curious about when what's now called cellular agriculture lab-grown meat might be approved. Well, just recently, you may have seen the USDA, FDA have agreed that there should be some joint ownership of that process. I can tell you there's going to be no approved product for you to eat, even though companies are quickly working to have that, until there's a process to approve it for us to eat. So maybe next year, maybe not quite that fast. We'll have to see. Product naming question. What do we do if our internal team cannot agree on a name? Do we just start over? No, don't start over. I would go back to the brief What is it that you were trying to do? Sometimes that can get forgotten in the process. Make sure that you have objectives of what you want this name to accomplish. Did you conduct some qualitative research to see whether or not that name is getting there? Can you make a business case for it? And then if all that doesn't get you where you need to go, you might have to go and have somebody within your hierarchy make a decision. If that brief is good at the beginning, however, you should be able to get to where you need to go. Another question here, if Americans really worry about the safety of our food, what should a marketer, a producer, a farmer even do to combat that? I would say make sure there is evidence of the integrity of your product, your process, your company online, because that's where people are going to go first. And then from there, you could build out a brand support, communications, public relations to support it. But make sure that you are, well, first of all, your protocol is where it should be to prevent problems. And then second, that if I decide to look, I can find evidence of your integrity. Now, that's all the time we have for questions because we're going over right now. You can get all our webinars, youtube.com/users/Charleston-Orwig. You can always ping me if you want more information, the entire content, mark.g@charlestonorwig.com. Thank you this year and specifically today for joining us on 5 and 15. We're in the process of doing an update to our food label research, looking a little bit more into that, cellular agriculture as it's now called, plant-based protein, and some other really fascinating topics that we're going to share with you in January. For now, peace and prosperity for the new year. Thanks for joining us. Be well. I'm Mark Gale from Charleston-Orwig. That's it today, and I guess this year for 5 and 15. Hope to hear from you soon.